Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Temple City Council work session for Thursday, March 18th. The time currently is 3 p.m. Do we have anyone signed up? Okay. Then we will move right on into the regular agenda. And the first item on the agenda for workshop is to discuss any items that are posted on tonight's agenda. Council or staff, any notes we need to know about? Nothing? Wow. Item number 2 is to receive departmental updates from Human Resources, Planning and Development, and Transform Temple. Ms. Raymore, you're up.
Thank you. Glad to see everyone again. I feel like we've been isolated for so long, and it's exciting to see so many faces. And some people, I was saying earlier, it's hard to recognize because their hair is grown out or they changed something during this time. So I'm happy to be here and excited to share with you some of the things we've been doing. So first of all, I wanted you to meet my team, and I'm going to take off of something that I heard Kevin say on his presentation. This is not only the best HR team in Temple or the state of Texas, but in the world, I think. But this is my team here. We have a department of 7. So first, we're going to rewind a little. What are some of the things that we've been working on? So we'll start with that. The first one, as you may recall, we do in-house compensation studies now. They're also known as market studies. Last year, we did the general government one. We're working on the civil service one right now, and we're getting close to the end. We've completed the lion's share of the project, which is the data collection and analysis part. And then, the other pieces I'll talk about later in the presentation where we're going next, but we have completed that, and that is a really big task each year to undertake. So I'm very excited that we're getting through that. The next project, this is something that I brought to you back in May of last year when we redesigned and updated our policy manual. And you may recall that now every year we do updates as needed. The updates are approved by the city manager unless there's something in the updates that has a budget impact that needs to come back to council. But we have completed the annual update, and that has been approved by the city manager. So that's another project that's been completed. Next, this picture I'm very proud of. Those yellow papers that you see here on the slide, those were the previous process for our HR transactions, everything from hiring to position changes, everything that relates to employees. And those papers, that's probably about a 3 or 4 months worth of papers right there that you're seeing. All of those papers now no longer exist as far as going forward. We don't have to do those anymore because of what you see on the right-hand side of the screen, Ceridian Dayforce. That's our new HRIS system. So we went through a very intensive implementation process, and we did that in partnership with IT, finance, and performance excellence. And now we have a program that all of these types of transactions take place in. That system has combined most of, not all of our HR systems, including our benefits enrollment, our recruiting, our onboarding, even our payroll is run through this system. So that's something I'm very proud of and very excited to now have. And it has created a lot of efficiencies for us, as you can imagine. Ellen, it's not going forward. The next project that we've been working on, and this is another one that's a really big project, is we're scanning in all of the personnel files so that they are electronically available. We are now on letter L, and if you can imagine, each personnel file for an employee going back years and years, and some people have worked here for 25, 30 years, every piece of paper related to them is in that file. Those are now being scanned in, and each file, some files can take you a half a day to get everything scanned in and cataloged. So getting to letter L is a really big accomplishment. That's a project we're still working on, and hopefully all active employee files will be finished by the end of this fiscal year. Then we'll start scanning in employee files for employees who are no longer working here, but we have to maintain their documentation.
Tara, how long do we maintain?
Each document that's in a personnel file has a different retention schedule. Some pieces of information are for a lifetime, like the fact that an employee did work here and their dates of employment and their positions held. We have to keep that data forever. And then there's some pieces that are 7 years and some are 5. So each document within that file has a different retention schedule. Whenever we're ready to go through and we destroy them, we have to go through the files and pull out the pages that can be destroyed and box those up at the same time. Can you do next? Okay. The next thing, and many of you probably noticed this picture, it's become synonymous with COVID-19. One project that our office takes care of is managing the employee emergency sick leave and the expanded FMLA requests that we receive from our employees. What these programs do is they help the employees whenever they need to be out because either they have COVID-19, they've been exposed to it, their school may have closed, or daycare that their children go to, and they can't come to work because of that. So we have these programs. They were required under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that came out last year. And then after that act kind of went away, we did continue the program, which is a great benefit to help our employees during the hard times that they may be having related to COVID-19. So we process all of those leave requests, follow up with those employees, and we also track employees who have gone out either from exposure or themselves being sick. So we have that data that we need. So another thing that we've done, and you'll see these pictures, we're wearing masks. We've conducted quite a few civil service entrance testing and promotional testing over the past year. But just in the last few months, we've conducted 2 police tests and 1 fire. At the fire test that we recently held in February, we had more candidates than I've ever seen since I've worked here. And Chief Randall said since he's worked here, we had 131 people show up that day for testing. Out of that group, we ended up with 69 who passed the entrance exam, and now they're moving on through the process on that eligibility list. We don't currently have an active opening at the fire department, but that list will sit there for the next year for any openings that happen. Police department, they have less candidates. The last one, we ended up with 42 people who came out for the test. We only ended up with 10 at the end that actually passed the test and moved forward. And so they're having another test coming up April 24th. We have to have tests more frequent with them because we don't get as many candidates in police. And by the time they get through the 10 on that list, they'll be lucky if they have 1 or 2 that actually are hireable.
Tara, the percentage of passings for both departments, is that standard across similar towns?
Unfortunately, yes, it is. We did do research on that, and we actually even changed our test for police to a different test vendor just this year. So the last test that we gave in January is a different vendor because we wanted to make sure there wasn't something there that was different. So Chief Reynolds and I worked together, and we talked with the vendor, and we picked a new vendor, and it was a vendor that he was familiar with too. About a 50% pass rate is what you generally will see. The one that we had in January, those 10 people who moved on to the eligibility list that day, some of the issues that happened were 42 showed up and got there. We had some people even leave before the test was over. Like they talked to someone, and I know we had one who he was over age. We have people who come in and they find out about the disqualifications that are automatic speech that is given at the beginning of the test, and they get up and walk out because they see that they can't meet one of the qualifications. So some of those things happen. And even though we list those on our website, when they apply, they don't read it, and then they get there and they end up walking out. So now let's fast forward to some of the things we're going to be working on here coming up in the next 90 days. We're going to finalize that civil service market study. As I showed you a moment ago, we've got all the data and analysis, and what we're working on is coming up with options for consideration during the budget process. And you'll recall last year during budget, I came and gave a presentation on the general government one. It'll be similar for civil service later this year when we get to the budget. But right now we're still finalizing some options for that. We're going to be analyzing employee benefits and conducting RFPs if necessary. We started that process. Now we do have a couple of our benefits that the current agreements are ending this year. Vision and dental are two of those. And then Guardian, who provides our accident, critical illness, hospitalization, those plans. They haven't gone out for RFP in 3 years, so we're going to be looking at an RFP for those products at this point. So that's what we are working on as well. Those RFPs will go out sometime in the month of April, and then we'll be bringing that back when we have our benefits presentation later this year. We're going to conduct an RFP. We're getting ready right now to do this for employment testing. This employment testing is the drug testing and physicals. We currently have a background testing vendor that is integrated with our Dayforce system, and we are looking to have this testing integrated as well, meaning when an employee is selected for hire, everything goes through Dayforce. They're notified where to go for their testing, and we receive the results back through the system. So we're going out for RFP to look for that. Our current vendor, Thumbs Up, does not have the ability to do that, but there are vendors in the area that do. So that's why we're going for RFP at this time. We're going to conduct another civil service entrance test, like I said, next month in April. We also will have some promotional exams coming up in the fire department later this year. We're going to continue to enhance Dayforce. And what I mean there is we're adding to our onboarding, we're adding videos. We also have created police and fire will have their own recruitment pages that we're working on. So those are some other options and things we're working on there. And then we're going to update the format and content of job descriptions in preparation for next year's general government market study. We want to have all of our job descriptions looking good when we go out for that. So with all of that said, I'm happy to take any questions that you guys have.
When are you starting the market study for public safety?
The market study for civil service.
Yes.
It started, we already collected all of the data and everything is put together, and we're working on the pay chart options and everything to bring forward to you later.
This may be a premature question, but it seems like that's something that we chase all the time. The civil service pay. Do you have any idea yet how far behind market or where we are in comparison to market yet? This may be way too early to ask that question, but just out of curiosity.
I don't have the exact percent on the top of my head, but I know that it's lower than it was last time. It's less than 10%. And I believe last time we were at 14%. So and one of the problems with that is when we raise ours, everybody else raises theirs. And when we raise ours, everybody else raises. And it's a constant. It's the same with general government, basically, though. You know, when we raise our general government chart and other cities see we raised ours and they go do their study and they raise theirs, and everybody's always competing in that way. So it is a challenge, but that's why it's good that we're at least doing them as we are every other year for each one of them.
Do most of the other cities do that study every other year, or are they making adjustments every year?
It varies. Some cities do them every year and some do them every 3 to 5 years. Okay. The county I came from in Williamson County does every position will be looked at every 3 years. So it does vary. I think that if you did it every year, some cities that are smaller may be able to do that. But with our city and the number of positions we have, that would be very costly, I think, if you do it every year and try to make adjustments. You know, your adjustments, if you think about it, you're doing it every year, you're probably going to do about half. But those dollars are going to add up over time if you're doing it every year.
Well,
the time would be the length.
It just seems like that difference is so large, both in percentage and in dollars, obviously. I don't know. I just wonder if that's something that needs to be looked at every year, but you're saying it would be cost prohibitive to do that.
It may be. I mean, it's something you can do every year, but again, I guess you have to look at the first year. If you did it like next year, if we did both of them together, what is the cost of that? Sure. And like I said, with it being so many positions, it may take a little longer to do.
Yeah. Just something to think about because, you know, again, I know that we're always understaffed, especially on the police officer side. And you just wonder if maybe there's pay is part of it, but I know lots of parts go into that puzzle. I get that. But I don't know, I just wonder if there's something that we could proactively do here to somehow close that gap of, I guess, the lack of officers.
I think one of the things that you look at doing is you try to pay higher than market. If you're paying at market, like you said, when you get 2 years from now, the market is now
Has
different.
moved, yeah.
If you try to increase the chart a little above the market, then when the 1 year passes and you get to the next year, you're still going to be either at market or slightly still above. And it's also going to help with your recruitment if you're above market. So that's one of the things that you can do to try to beat that trend of chasing.
Yeah, I'd just like further discussion on that.
Absolutely.
If there's a solution or a possible solution, something to explore. It just seems like as long as I've been on council, it's just always a number we're chasing. We never quite catch it.
Yes,
So
that's true.
Have you seen cities that like 1 year they do market and do adjustments based on market? And next year, in between the market studies, they do a fixed flat percent to help smooth out some of that.
In general government, yes, and on the step chart sometimes as well, like, so this year you do a market study, you get up to market, the next year you do a 3%. So you're trying to, again, not be behind. So those are all different things that we can look at doing, yes, absolutely. We can look at doing flat percentage increases to the step charts in between years.
that's good. Council, anything? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Oh.
All right, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys at this workshop. Actually, it's the first time I've been in this space, so I actually got lost coming here, which is, I hate to admit. But yeah, just happy to report on what we've been working on so far this year, which of course is October through January, but also what we've been working on the last couple months as well. But I want to start off with introducing you to our staff because we do have a lot of new faces. I counted that 5 staff have joined us within the last year and 3 months, 2020. And so here is, of course, our org chart. And we've got, as you will recall, 3 different teams: community vitality, that includes neighborhood planning, and the Main Street program, as well as planning and zoning, which is kind of the traditional planning component, but then also permits and inspections. So of course, that's me. And Kathy Gover, many of you know, she's kind of the glue of our department. I like to refer to her as the Michael Jordan of our department, to use a basketball reference. Happy March Madness, everybody. And then looking at our permits and inspections, Lynn Barrett, our assistant director, has done a really good job of managing that important function of our department. Our development coordinator, Nancy Whetstone, Brian Kozel, who's been our building official for a number of years now, Barbara Morganroth, who used to be the development coordinator, but has been promoted to permit supervisor. And then we've got 3 of our 4 inspectors shown there. We have a vacancy right now, but these guys are doing a fantastic job. They're out the entire day. You know, you'll see in our numbers that permits are great business right now, and certainly the construction industry is a little bit nuts right now. But these guys are out usually till about 5:30, just the entire day. So we're looking forward to filling that 4th spot. But on the left, that's Al Cordova, Aubrey Edwards in the middle, and then Harold Clipper on the right. And then our permit techs, we got Robin Andrews and Misty Carver. And Misty has joined us within the last year as well. All right, heading to planning and zoning. Some of these folks you may know better than permits and inspections, just because you do periodically see them giving presentations for zoning cases and plats. Mark Baker, of course, is our principal planner. Jason Deckman is our senior transportation planner, and doing a great job working with Richard Wilson and managing the mobility master plan. And then Cheryl Maxwell joined us from Belton just back in October. We're really pleased to have her and her experience on the team. And then Tanisha Weidermeyer, she's also joined us within the last year as our planning technician. And then looking at community vitality, last but not least, we got Dan Kelleher, our Main Street manager, and Ayana Batchen-Rowe, who just started in the last couple months. She is our part-time admin assistant. She's doing a fantastic job. She also helps out periodically with some of the admin tasks, including CIS grants. She's going to be the lucky processor of those pretty soon. And then Kelly Atkinson, our senior neighborhood planner. All right, so jumping into major accomplishments in the first quarter of this year, KTMPO, as many of you are sit on the policy board, at least a couple of you do, but are familiar with the MPO and the importance of the regional coordination for transportation projects. Recently submitted for new road, trail, and sidewalk projects for future grant funding through TxDOT. And so those are going to be scored at Technical Advisory Committee and Policy Board next month. The Temple Mall city initiated rezoning, and associated with that, you will see a conditional use permit at the next meeting for Discount Tire to make that a conforming use, which would potentially allow them to expand in the future. So they elected to do that. And CIS grants, we talked about that. Ayana and Dan will be administering those moving forward, but we've had four that really all four of those were administratively approved through Bren and her office. One is for Fox Dog. It's a future coffee and tap room, the northern part of our downtown. Mexico Cafe, they actually had two different small grants to that one included fire suppression sprinklers required by code, and they should be open towards the beginning of April. But either way, they're saying it's an April opening. And then PJ's Tabletop, that's at 10 West Avenue B. That's Jack Folsom's building, and Nathan's Rations used to be there, and Jack Folsom and his partner's office was next door. Either way, that was a grant to move their entrance to First Street to really improve that building, but also make it more visible. So makes sense. Also, under Bren and David's leadership, the Bell County ETJ MOU with the county for plats in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. The MOU, that intergovernmental document, dates back to 2001. Certainly a lot has changed since then. So we're working closely with them to change that process to meet the needs of both Bell County and the city. And then also the comprehensive plan, adopted by you all in November, using Smartsheet, and with the help of Performance Excellence, and specifically Christine Leal, who has just been fantastic in helping us navigate this. So we've got a Smartsheet that we'll start using soon to be able to track all 170 initiatives and work with the various departments responsible for them. And then within the last couple months, one item that to bring to your attention, we hired half associates who did our comprehensive plan to also do some specific analysis about the TMED street cross-section standards, where street trees should be located, and making sure that they don't conflict with underground utilities, sidewalk location, lighting. There's so many different parts to TMED that we want to make sure that they're all working together, not conflict with each other. Also, we were happy to inherit the historic marker committee from Parks, and Parks has done a fantastic job with them. But with the historic marker committee becoming the Historic Preservation Board, it made sense that that would be within our department and essentially our community vitality team. And so we had a meeting with them last month and looking forward to having the first meeting with the Historic Preservation Board. The MKT Depot. So we hired a consultant, Horizon Environmental out of Austin, who has done an application to qualify the MKT Depot as a registered Texas historic landmark, which not only would give them a nice pretty plaque with the state of Texas on it, but would also make that building eligible for incentives such as historic preservation tax credits at the state level. A second part to that contract will be getting it listed on the National Register of Historic Places, which would also open up the incentive opportunities for redevelopment of that building in the future. I mentioned the mobility master plan. Richard is project manager along with Jason Deckman in our office. That seems to be going really well. They've got their first steering committee meeting next week. And so that's going great. The consultants, Allegiance Transportation Group out of Austin, and of course, KPA and Covey are an important part of that team. And so, yeah, we've got a great team to lead that into the future. In terms of neighborhood planning, we've got the Bel Air plan, which you all, of course, adopted on the 3rd of this month. Midtown is in the final stages, and there's a community meeting on the 26th of this month. And then it's exciting that the 7th plan, hard to believe that this team has already essentially finished 6. But the 7th plan is particularly exciting. That's the downtown plan, and that's underway. So for the next 90, we're going to be focusing on comprehensive plan implementation, corporate campus rezoning. So to take the corporate campus master plan and add zoning regulations to that to ensure that it enables implementation of that plan and the vision. And so you all will be seeing that within the next few months, coordinating with the Main Street Board on alignment with our strategic plan, all the downtown related initiatives, not just the strategic plan, the comp plan, the downtown master plan, and just making sure all those pieces are fitting together. Also working with legal in amending chapter 17, which is related to the historic preservation. The Bell County MOU, which we talked about, continuing that progress. And then neighborhood planning using a similar smart sheet implementation strategy for tracking and following those. So just a quick overview of key performance indicators within the department. So looking at building permits on the left, new single family residential on the right. So in green, that is the current year, 21, blue is 20. And so you can see just from building permits in Q1, green exceeds the blue. And so in October, that was a 32% increase over October in the previous year, 20% in November, and 11% in December. And so similar for the new single family residential when you compare the two. So in October, we had a 18% increase this year versus last, 17% in November. Now, what's really interesting is you look at December, and I don't have a good explanation as to why December was such a huge increase. But look at that, 126 versus 59 over last year. And so, that represents 114% increase. And so then when we just look at the last 5 months and you look at all permits, it's a little more modest increase, 9%. And then when you look at fees paid, an increase of 12% over last year. Well, keep in mind, last year was also a record year. So 9 and 11% is significant. Certainly we're trending in that direction for the entire year. But also keep in mind that includes February, which of course included Winter Storm Uri. And so there were essentially a couple weeks where nothing was happening. And just looking at Main Street key performance indicators, looking at private investment. And so Dan and now Ayana helping him, they do the research for these, including private investment, looking at the permits that have been submitted within the Main Street boundary and really kind of extrapolating those over kind of a monthly timeline. So 1.05 million of private investment this, the first quarter of this year versus 1.07 quarter four. So, comparable. Occupancy rate of retail spaces, 68% first quarter versus 48% quarter four. So that's a significant increase. And then looking at restaurants, pulling restaurants out of the retail. And so we can compare that and look at the restaurant health of downtown. So 72% occupancy in quarter one versus 64% in quarter four of the previous year. Looking at planning and zoning cases, we had 11 in quarter one versus 9 in the previous quarter. Comparable, but also think it's important to point out that of those 11, 9 of those were plan development rezonings with a couple CUPs in there. And so we're going to see that trend probably for a while until we can amend the Unified Development Code to match the comprehensive plan. So until then, we're using that tool of site plan adoption coming to P&Z and council with the ability to use some conditions to match what's in the comprehensive plan. So just a note on that. In terms of plats, exactly the same, quarter one 24 versus quarter four, and then no variances in either quarter. And so that's always good news in my book. And then lastly, in other news related downtown, this isn't technically a key performance indicator, but thought y'all would be interested because, looking at this list, there were some businesses that I wasn't even aware had come to downtown. Well, no pun intended, Aware Central Texas Family Counseling being one of those at 212 West Adams. The Calhoun Square Apartments, and that's the housing consortium, their conversion of the old First Baptist educational building to new apartments at 103 West Calhoun. The MRB group, of course, you all know they moved from central downtown on Central Avenue to the larger TX, I think this is the old TXU building. That's at 303 West Calhoun. And they have actually applied for a CIS grant to convert some of their open space to a courtyard and outdoor seating area. PJ's Tabletop, we mentioned that. That's a soul food restaurant there on Avenue B. Remedy Hair Shop at 306 West Adams. And so if you don't recognize that address, that's the old Firestone building. So they've got multiple tenant spaces in there. Temple Children's Museum, they opened up their temporary location at 11 North 4th, and they've been pretty busy this week hosting groups of kids. That's how they're doing it these days. Of course, it's spring break, and so they're doing it by appointment only for now. Tour Temple just opened yesterday, so that's a really exciting addition to downtown. And then another business that I was not familiar with, glad to be aware of it now, Travis Moore Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 12 South 4th Street. And that's all I've got. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Brian, on the page where you listed restaurants, there was Mexico, something restaurant.
Yes.
That you didn't mention the location.
That is a good question, because that's the old Cotton Exchange building.
Oh.
Yeah, 116 South 1st Street.
So
Yes, ma'am.
density here, is it open for business?
We open in April.
Okay.
They're just finishing out their interior work that included adding a sprinkler system by code. And so as according to Dan, our Dan Kelleher, they're on track for an April open.
And PJ's Tabletop is a soul food restaurant
It is, yes,
and it's
ma'am.
open?
Yes, ma'am. It's been open for several months now. I want to say October-ish, November perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
So, but now you know.
Now I know.
Yeah, I hear good things.
Been busy.
A lot of development happening, and growth and kind of the hinterlands of town, but also in the central core. So it's exciting to see that balance. Yes, sir.
I'm sort of a broad question, but in the inspections department, you have 3 inspectors instead of 4.
Correct, right now.
Massive building underway,
Right.
historical highs. And I'm sure they're running behind somewhat. That would be logical. I don't know that.
Sure.
But are they finding, because the workforce is stressed and they're trying to get this many houses done, the quality of the work, is it holding up as far as these guys can see?
As far as I know, it is holding up overall.
Good.
But as you can imagine, with the volume and just the pressure, the development pressure, and just in terms of, you all probably know in the industry that getting subcontractors is such a challenge right now. Materials and the employees to finish the job. So there is a extra pressure that I think there are some mistakes that are happening now that I wouldn't say is an overall concern, just from the sheer volume. And so these guys are staying pretty busy just to make sure that that the code is enforced.
Are you actively looking to replace that 4th position?
We are. So it's an open position right now, and we're a little bit disappointed that we actually only have 1 application in the works right now, and it's not someone who's qualified. So it's we're just chalking that up to having to compete directly with the private sector right now, and that's obviously challenging to do. This is unlike anything I've seen in my 21 years as a professional planner, but talking to others who have been in the industry much longer than I have, they say they foresee.
That might be something as the budget process coming around, you need to look at that position and make sure we're competitive to bring in the right people.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
One thing that's difficult about construction related or city jobs versus a time like this in construction, a lot of times you can make a lot of money in a construction related job when the market is this way. You don't have the benefits or the longer term security that the city position offers, but it's often very difficult to offset that, what you can make in the private sector. I think we've, even beyond this particular market, which is the most challenging, as Brian mentioned, that we've historically had a difficult time with the building inspector position. I think we've stolen at this point all the building inspectors from Cody, so.
Yes. That is true. If I went back to that picture, you would see that all 3 of those inspectors used to work for the city of Killeen, and they're fantastic, but we're not sure if I think we've stolen all their inspectors, so.
We started on the same day, FYI.
So that, all jokes aside, one strategy could be, where are the other building inspectors in nearby cities that.
Once you drain one city, there's others.
And we're not above it. We're not above it at all.
Poach.
Mhm.
So it's the wild, wild west over in Killeen right now.
From the city of Temple where it's quiet.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chandler.
Okay, thank you all.
Yeah. Pretty close.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here to report on our last quarter. You're going to have to forgive me. Well, first of all, there are two things. I really need to up my PowerPoint game after seeing this.
That's true.
Those guys are great. But I do have some good information on here that I want to share. Second of all, I've been ill the past couple of days, so I don't think I'll fall down or yeah, sorry. Tracy, I'll do my best not to sit down. But so just bear with me and interrupt as I go along. So like everybody else, once again, I could have improved this. I wanted to show you our current position, but as opposed to having fancy pictures and everything else, I didn't do just show you what we're doing. So Transform Temple currently basically has three different areas of focus. We have our administration, which just kind of oversees everything, including myself, Chad, the assistant director, who's over there. I think everybody knows Chad. If you have any questions, he's the one who's going to get called on. So that's why I asked him to be here. And then we have a customer service coordinator who is Brittany Griffin. She started, several months ago. She's been here over 6 months, just over 6 months. We're very, very happy to have her. She's wonderful. Speaking of poaching, we took her from the utility business office. So she scooted over. She's wonderful. So code compliance, I think we all know what that is. We have one senior code officer, Tom Dickerson, and 3 code officers, 2 of whom were hired relatively recently. And I'll talk about them a little more later. We have the projects team, which is the Transform Temple projects team, which is what the core of Transform Temple was when we started. It was me and 2 people out there picking up trash on the street and pulling weeds and stuff. We've expanded over the last few years to encompass these other things. So the projects team consists of a coordinator, who is Henry Seals, once again, poached from Public Works. We have a lead agent, Philip, so from Parks. And then this has 5 agents. I obviously can't count. Chad has told me several times that we only have 4, and Chad is right. We still have one of those positions is vacant. I was just speaking to HR about it. We feel very lucky. We only have 1 position vacant. We had somebody lined up. They didn't make it through the whole hiring process, but they were relisted. We don't think we're going to have any problem. How many? 18?
I haven't even checked today, but yeah, 18 is.
As of yesterday, we had 18 applications, so we're pretty happy about. Sorry, Brian.
Send some our way.
Yeah, we'll shoot them over to you. Yeah, and Don's not going to let anybody come over. And then we have our abatement team, which is the mow crew, and then they do some larger cleanups, which is Roger, who's been here for forever. And talk about institutional knowledge. He's great. You just start talking about a part of town. He's like, oh yeah, I know exactly where you're at. Roger has planted trees on empty lots that we mow. Just he'll save a seedling and plant a pecan tree and see him come and grow up. So he loves what he does and knows a lot about it. And he's got 2 assistants who help him mow.
Is abatement only mowing?
There's some demo involved when we do our own demolition. When Public Works will loan us their tools if we don't hurt them. I think we did last time we borrowed some from them. And or we have a rental fund where we can rent stuff. So we do some demos if we can. And I'll talk a little bit more about some more stuff they did.
Okay.
Next year, everything's pretty much the same, except the goal right now is to add the downtown parking duties. And on top, so far that's working with David. We're just kind of going back and forth. Sorry, David Olson, trying to figure out exactly what that is. But currently, we're looking at a parking manager position. So somebody who actually knows something about parking, and which I'm learning very quickly, but it's not been my forte, and a parking official. So what we've accomplished over, well, it's not the last 90 days. It's would be through January. So we're looking at November, December, January. As Brian stated, we're working on the neighborhood district, the neighborhood planning districts. Bel Air, I think, was presented at the last meeting. If not, it was the one just prior to it. Very excited about that one. That was a great one. It's a great neighborhood. Council member Williams, I remember you commenting on Bel Air back during some reinvestment zone meeting. So I was excited that we were able to put that in place. Doing some stuff about that. Midtown is headed towards finalization. As Brian said, it's pretty much finalized at this point. We're doing some final meetings on it, and it'll be coming to y'all shortly. And then downtown, as far as Transform Temple is concerned, what our major focus is actually grading structures. So we drive every street, look at every structure that's there, and we grade it on a A through F scale, just like in school, based on the structure itself. How's it holding up? So if you see those maps and you see all the different colors on them, like what is it, green to bright red or something, we're the ones who dictated that based on code enforcement and building standards parameters.
Okay, Brian, in terms of grading structures, the old secondhand Rose building, how, do you by any chance, just off the top of your head, know how structurally how that is? Because for a while it looked like where it joined the sidewalk, whatever the correct engineering term is, looked very unstable.
No, I don't know structurally how it is. I would say grading it, D.
Yes, no, the east side is the side that looked so unstable.
Well, they pulled those windows out so it quit dropping glass on people,
Yes.
which was important. We would grade it a D, which for us means that it is capable of renovation. We're happy to have it be renovated, meaning that the bones are sound, but it needs some serious work to it. I don't think that's a surprise.
No.
Well, you really put me on the spot with it.
I'm sorry,
First
didn't mean
question.
to. That's why I said, I just by chance off the top of your head.
No, I'm all too familiar.
Well,
with
that's
that.
perfectly okay. It's one that had worried me for a long time. I always walked on the other side of the street.
Yeah, we're all concerned about that building. We hope for the best. So we're pushing what we can to make
It's
it.
a
a
very
better place.
important building.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Thanks.
Wholeheartedly. You bet. Alan, I may need your help here, buddy. Thank you. Okay, with housing and community development, we've done what is called our dumpster drop program. We pick 2 of the neighborhood districts every month, and every other week we drop a city roll-off to pick up for residents of that district to have a place to throw trash away. So we have a roll-off out there from Friday afternoon till Monday morning. We've done 7 of those in 7 districts as of end of January. In that, we picked up 391 tires and 11, almost 12 tons of trash. So I don't know about the trash. Theoretically, they could have hauled it to the dump themselves. You get 1 free dump a month. Some people don't have the ability to do that. So this is us providing a service for them. I can tell you right now that those 391 tires would be either picked up off the side of the road, or they would have been in a shed somewhere for us to get later at some later point when somebody moved out. So this is exciting, and we're very happy to be doing this. It's a big deal. Yes, sir.
How's this advertised? Whenever it's going to be, whenever we're doing a dumpster. I mean, I've seen it on Facebook. How else, or is that?
Well, we work with marketing. So there's a target focus on next door. So when we're coming to that area, they shoot that out there, and Facebook are probably the 2 biggest. It is on the website. So if you manage to find your way there, it has listed out where we are and what dates we're going to be doing it almost for the rest of the year, if I'm not mistaken, although we got a little bit held up with the ice storm, obviously.
I think it's a great idea. Do you think this has any impact on the illegal dumping? Or it probably don't even have a way to
Positive
know
or
that.
negative?
Well,
No,
I mean, a positive in that people might put it there instead of, but probably people that are dumping probably aren't checking the website.
I'd almost wish that we could say, and if you're thinking about dumping this car out of the road, here's a roll off, go through it.
Just hold on to it for another 24 hours.
Yeah, right. But the problem with illegal dumping is it's
For the moment.
It's for the moment. It's immediate gratification. I got this trash, it needs to go away. I'm not gonna wait 6 months till there's a dumpster.
Okay.
So while I would like to say yes, and surely it has some kind of positive impact, I can't say immediate, it's having an immediate.
Probably hold the illegal dumpers and ask them.
Yeah. It's hard to tell because illegal dumping is such a weird thing. It goes back and forth. We don't have it for a long time and all of a sudden it's
Oh, really?
yes.
That's a great idea. I appreciate that.
Is there any way to keep dumpsters in areas that we experience the need and to keep them there and pick them up, you know, like we have trash pickup on a routine basis? I mean, I know dumpsters are unsightly. I get that.
Well, they're not as unsightly, I mean, to your point,
True.
as a bunch of trash on.
No, they aren't.
My concern about that is that when, and honestly, one of my initial concerns about the dumpster drop is that when you start providing a service, which that would be, is that people get used to the
Oh,
service.
sure.
And then they say, why would I do that? I'm just gonna take it up to the corner and throw it away. So I don't think, I think that's an interesting thought and I haven't really thought through it. So I would, allow me to kind of talk to leadership and see what their thoughts are.
I would only think if it came to fruition in any way and we were going to leave them in X locations, we would want murals on those dumpsters.
Well, so one of the things we've done is Transform Temple has bought, with the help of finance and once again with executive leadership. We own 2 roll-offs now, so that we bought for our own personal use. A lot of that we were thinking had to do with some of our fix-ups and things like that we're trying to infill projects, which we still use it for. But then this rolled in, and of course with Nancy, who's, y'all are aware with housing and community development, is a force of nature.
Yes, you
And
do.
so all of a sudden she's like, we got dumpsters, let's do this. And I was like, oh, yeah, of course. And all of a sudden we're doing it. Let me think through that
Sure.
and then look into it a little deeper.
I'm not necessarily advocating, it's just a thought.
It's a good thought and I haven't thought through it. Illegal dumping can happen anywhere, but we do have a few places where it happens consistently. And we're also working on it in some other ways, working with PD as far as cameras. So, yes, ma'am. All right, also with housing and community development is our Good Neighbor program, which it was called something else a couple of years ago, but the Good Neighbor program is to, through housing community development, they identify people who need help taking care of their lawns. So this is all for mowing lawns, trimming trees and shrubbery and stuff like that. We were able to put together 3 sets of tools for them that is for their use only. So this is not part of our tool library. And they identify these people. We have volunteers that will go out and mow the grass or take care of the tree trimming or whatever. And what Transform Temple does is supplies the lawn equipment. We drop it off on Friday at the homeowner's house and we go back and pick it up on Monday. So we roll through that on a weekly basis almost. And that's kind of exciting too. It started off kind of small. Of course, we haven't been doing much of it the last few months because it hasn't been necessary. But coming up, we're going to see that really expand. And that saves not only the city, but code enforcement. Nobody wants to write up somebody for high grass that can't cut the grass. So we sometimes turn it over to housing community development. Hey, these people need help, and then they work with it. So it's really been a great project to work on with them. So moving on to code compliance, we've hired 2 new code officers in the last 6 months. Happy to say they went to testing in Waco yesterday to get their official code enforcement license, and they both passed. So yay us. We hired our customer service coordinator, which is great. And then, and this seems like an odd place maybe to put this, we have sent 70 complaints, which are basically citations, to the municipal court. I can tell you a year ago this time, the number would be closer to 0 to 3. Because we really did put a halt on sending people to court because we wanted to make sure that we were doing everything we could to make sure we were giving them the means to address the problems. Time, understanding, education, whatever it was. So at a certain point, maybe 6 months, maybe about a year ago, we said, all right, we're going to send them back. The other thing that I would like to tell you all about any complaint that goes to court is that we have a weekly code meeting with all the code people, our customer service coordinator, Chad and myself. And we all sit down, and any complaint that a code officer wants to take to court, they bring to this whole group. We go through it, see photos, hear the history, and nothing goes to court without my personal approval, or if I'm not available, Chad's approval.
Are you talking about just junk vehicles?
No, ma'am, this is, that junk vehicles is just an example.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
No, ma'am, I'm saying all complaints to
All
court.
compliant.
Junk vehicles, by the way, do not go to court. We have a different process. So this would be junk and debris,
Sure.
maybe not high grass, mostly junk and debris, really.
Sure.
So I'm going to go through the types of cases we have and where they come from. So of all the cases started in those 3 months we're addressing, there were 665. And over to the right, we see the source on patrol is 72% were picked up on patrol. That means the guy's driving through neighborhoods, checking stuff out and writing up a complaint. Citizen complaint was 17%. Other departments was 7%. That's public works calling and say, hey, I saw this, or city secretary's office calling and said, oh, this is going on. And then finally, the city manager's office, which officially is a department, but we all know they're really special. And Acela, which is our online complaint system. We had 4%, which kind of surprised me, but a lot of times it's because we get a lot of information off of Acela, but a lot of it's duplicate information. I found out. So the types of cases, high grass, we had 163, which is about 25%. So there's an example of high grass. Parking on the grass, we had about the same amount, 25%. There's two examples of parking on the grass. Junk and debris, I think we all know what that is. Here's two fine examples of junk and debris. Once again, a little less than 25%. Here's your junk vehicles. What does that say? 8%? 8%. So 55 of them. That's quite a few junk vehicles. And I want to remind you, this is not, these didn't all go to court. A lot of them got settled. These are literally the number of cases we started for each type. And then finally, other would be the one on the left. They started, I don't know what they were doing, pouring a sidewalk or something on the side of their house. Of course, it's encroaching on the property line that didn't have a permit, et cetera, so no permit. And then the one on the right was a no permit case. Actually, they pulled a permit, they just built it differently than they permit for, which in essence is but also substandard structures, things like that would be, pardon me, the other category. Code mows. So in the 3 months we're talking about, there were 223 mows ordered. Of those 223, 160 were mowed by our abatement crew, and then 63 were mowed by the other. So that means we sent them a letter, said, we're coming after it, we're going to mow it, and we're going to charge you money. And of that, not quite half, or not quite a third, I'm sorry, were mowed by the owner. And then city mows, we currently have 130 on our list of city-owned properties that we mow consistently. Take a look at every month. We don't always mow them every month. Of those, 46 are for capital improvement projects, which is a lot. That shows you the amount of work that we've got going on through the city. So either we buy property, we get an easement or something. Between the time that we attach that property and the time that the project is finished, somebody's got to take care of it. So along with our demos, we make sure those properties are addressed.
How often does the owner, if the city mows, how often does the owner get the bill and pay up?
They always get the bill.
Well, I'm sure, I'm sorry. How often do they pay up?
Very
Seldom, I'm sure.
The collection rate is very, very low.
A lot of
And
times
when we
when I'm
eventually
signing,
file a lien,
yeah, a lot of times when I'm signing release of liens, it's just, mow job after mow job.
Yeah, and Chad has to sign them on the front. So he sees those all. Unfortunately, it's, and that's because a lot of the lots that we mow are abandoned or have no idea where the property is. Most of the time, if we can get in touch with somebody, they take care of the business, most of the time.
Okay.
Projects team, which is our downtown team, We have expanded our daily downtown cleanup crew. I don't know if y'all seen them, but we do have a nighttime crew now. They work from noon to 8:30 at night. They work from Tuesday through Saturday. That's also kind of a variable shift. So if there's something going on like First Friday or even during Blumenfest or something like that, we can shift the hours to later. Or earlier if there's nothing going on and we need some stuff done in the morning. The nice thing about that is it gives us Saturday to do pressure washing and things, but we're not bothering people who are actually at work downtown and can access some stuff. And that's one of our new guys. That's our new guy. That's George. Do sign patrol. We picked up 467 signs in those 3 months. Those signs are, pardon me, sometimes garage sale signs. The vast majority, as you can tell, we buy houses. We've all seen them. Board ups, we did 9. Some of those are our own board ups, but these counts are for abandoned structures that PD calls us and says you need to secure this house or go there and secure it. I talked about monthly mows of city property. We did 3 demos in that time frame, those 3 months, which is about right. Maybe one a month we do, maybe a little less. That is not one we did. That's a contracted one, but I thought it was a great picture, so I threw it in. We helped with Christmas decorations, which is pretty exciting. And then we're also in charge of some of the downtown and Santa Fe Depot banners, basically anything that's new in the downtown area. So the depot and the rest of that is ours. So if you got a problem with a banner downtown, let us know and we'll make sure it gets addressed. Susan, you asked about, is that all that the crew does is mow? When we buy new properties or attach new properties, that mow crew also goes on there, cuts down any old trees, make sure that the property is clean and safe to mow in the future. And they also, as I said, do some demos. And then finally, camp abatement, assisting the police department. A lot of times people move on and leave this kind of stuff. Bryn's giving me the look. I need to hurry up.
Not true.
And so that's it for the last 90 days. There's a lot of other stuff there as well. I did not mention the February freeze because it's not in here, but we did assist PD and fire in some of those efforts. And that was, I really wish we could have assisted more, but we did a lot of hauling stuff around. And that was an effort, and I commend everybody who was involved in that. But PD and fire, especially marketing, did a great job. Everybody did a great job on that. I've never seen so many departments come together so quickly to do so much. I was impressed, and I'm constantly impressed with the city. So next 90 days, understanding this includes February, some of which we've already done. Code officers test the license, already mentioned that. They tested and passed, so yay for us. We're working on an illegal dumping process to be able to prosecute, so we're trying to zoom in on that, working with PD as well, and Public Works through solid waste. The abatement crew, we have 10 capital improvement project demos to do. A lot of that's Avenue C. Some of those are already done, but we have a few others sprinkled around that for projects out early, things like that. 6 capital improvement project demo packets, meaning we put together a packet, say this is everything that needs to happen. There's asbestos, there's not asbestos, hand it over to purchasing, and then it gets sent out to bid. And then depending on the cost, it sometimes goes to you guys. We still need to onboard one more final Transform Temple agent. That will be an evening agent as well. So we're excited about that. And then we have a mobile pressure washing unit, but it hadn't really been activated. It's still going through its paces to get to us. But that's really exciting because that removes us from having to plug into a fire hydrant. We can actually tow it wherever we want to in the city and pressure wash. And then you'll have probably seen there's some areas outside just our core downtown even that really need to be addressed in a pressure washing unit. We're excited about that. Departmentally, we're going to continue mapping in the database of neighborhood planning districts. That's part of what Transform Temple does. So as we're rolling through these, as Brian said, our 7th now, that we're helping with the mapping and identification of structures, including who owns what. So we know per Belcad who owns which property. We have long spreadsheets of who owns what. We need to do some in-depth research on property with overdue liens and reoccurring mow orders, as Tracy just said. We're trying to get to a point, what do we do after we lien? So we're looking into what our solutions may be moving forward. Y'all had there was a presentation, I don't think I gave it, I think actually Aaron gave it to me, for me several months ago regarding rental registration process. Y'all wanted to hear back on it. I put together some stuff the team did, took it to Brennan, and she said, no, Buford, that's not good enough. Go back. And so I'm still, those were her.
So mean.
Those,
I did not say that.
it's what I heard. Anyway, so we're making some revisions, and of course, Brennan's suggestions were spot on. So we're making some revisions, hopefully to bring that to y'all soon regarding the registration process. And then finally, and excitingly, continuing the parking research and preparation for management of downtown parking duties, including the parking garage. We put a lot of money into those as a city. It's going to be real high profile. It's going to mean a lot, so we need to make sure they stay in good shape. So not only parking, but also maintenance. So we're excited about those two things. That is all I have. Are there any questions?
Those job description has really expanded over the years, hasn't it?
Yes, sir. I was going to say something smart.
Well, not just the
You're right.
description, but the jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, more and more pieces.
Yeah.
Exciting, though. It's very exciting.
Well, I appreciate the faith that leadership in general, Bren and Tracy specifically have placed in me and in our team by laying their stuff on. So it's important. Chad and I had our 90-day, our quarterly meeting with the city manager's office earlier this week. I still have my job, otherwise I wouldn't be here, so I'm very excited about that. But I always really sweat it when I go into those things. Maybe we all do this for not to be judged. And they had some very nice things to say. So while we don't always hit it out of the park, we feel like we're doing a lot. We're covering a lot of ground, and some stuff we're really covering in depth. So we're excited. We're involved in all the changes going on in the city, and we feel like we're supporting y'all's goals as council and leadership's goals and carrying y'all's concerns out.
And you're really great at poaching.
And punching?
Poaching.
Oh, poaching. We understand that the city has some really talented people there. We don't understand why they would work for another department.
Ray, can I ask you a question? You showed a roll-off for neighborhood cleanups that had a bunch of tires in it.
That's our dump truck.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of the tires had rims inside them. So is that pretty typical? You see a lot of metal in there?
I'd say we get more without rims
Right.
than with rims, but periodic, sometimes.
So does that metal end up with us out there?
I don't have a tire
The
machine.
majority of the tires we get, in my opinion, are people who want to save the $350 when they go to discount tire.
Right.
And they throw it on the curb. I had to holler at a kid in my neighborhood the other day. No, you can't put that there. No, you can't throw it. Those kids really don't like it.
Do that.
I am that guy. I became that old guy. But the majority of his people trying to, and God bless them. $12 is $12. But I don't think they understand that you can't just throw it in the trash.
In the near future, we'll hope to have a tire machine out there on that side. Sweet, in a year and a half or a couple of years, something like that.
That's relatively near. Well, we still have to address the rims and stuff.
I mean, we could pull
Oh,
separate the tires and the rims and.
so when you say a tire machine, you mean a cutter?
No, just for pulling the
Oh,
tires.
All right,
you guys work that out.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Is the metal rim recyclable in any way?
Oh, absolutely.
So separate,
now we're going
there's
further.
purpose to that.
Absolutely. There's a extra revenue. There's also conversion from landfill.
Yeah, I understand.
We save all our scrap iron. There's a scrap iron,
Yeah,
a roll offer that used to be out at 12th Street, and I'm sure there's one.
there's a
So,
market for scrap iron like that for some artists.
oh, well, as long as they're willing to pay us for it,
Well, I mean, if we put it on the website.
I'll let you talk to Brent about that. I'm not sure.
Again, sorry, man.
Um,
The CAC people about that.
If there are no further questions,
Council, anything else? All right, thank you very much.
thank you all.
Good
very
to
much.
see you.
Very
We
excited.
appreciate y'all's support.
Good. All right, moving on to item number 3 is to receive and discuss a briefing from the Temple Economic Development Corporation regarding certain economic development prospects and potential real property acquisitions. This will be held in executive session, so pursuant to the Texas Government Code sections 551.072 and 087, council may meet in closed session to discuss or deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person. Discuss or deliberate commercial or financial information received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city of Temple, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or to deliberate the offer of financial or other incentive to such a business project prospect. No final action will be taken. It says here, read the item below.